Alright, good day class. This is Isaac Humanitarian Foundation e-learning platform. Yes, this e-learning platform is brought to us by Isaac Humanitarian Foundation, and this is literature class. I am your host for today, your literature in English language teacher. My name is Kayode Olugbola. For today's class, we want to discuss general literary principles. General literary principles. That's our topic for today. Yes. Literary principles are the devices that are used to enrich a work of art. These are principles that are used to enrich or embellish a work of art, be it drama, prose, or poetry. Of course, we all know that there are three basic genres of literature, which are the drama, prose, and poetry. So the devices, the elements that are used by writers, by dramatists, by authors, by poets to enrich their work of art, they are what we call general literary principles. And today's class, we focus on the major literary principles that come out in our exam year in, year out. Yes, I have searched through your WAEC past questions, your JAM past questions, your post-JAM past questions. You see all these literary concepts, literary principles, literary appreciations, literary terminologies, and principles there. Why? They are aspects that WAEC, JAM, and post-JAM we always bring out in external examinations. Take notes. So today's class, we now focus on general literary principles, so as to aid our knowledge of literature as a subject. Now the first literary principle I want to discuss today is is tragic flow or amateur. Tragic flow, as you can see in the order on the board. I have number 1, amateur or tragic flow. Number 2, I have Macaronism. Number 3, I have plagiarism. Number 4, I have adaptation. 5, I have hermeneutics. 6, I have aesthetics. 7, I have feminism. 8, I have poetic justice. 9, I have poetic license. And 10, I have hubris. These are general literary principles that are used by writers to beautify their works of art. Now, number 1, amateur. What is amateur? Amateur refers to the weakness in a major character which causes downfall or misfortune. The error in judgment by a major character or a sudden weakness in a character which becomes the source of their misfortune, death, or downfall is called amateur. Then amateur is otherwise called what? It's otherwise called tragic flow. Amateur is otherwise called tragic flow. When you have a major character, a work of art, and the errors committed by the character lead toward downfall or misfortune. In literature, it is termed tragic flow or amateur. But take note, it is mostly a feature of tragedy. As I've told you in our previous classes, when you watch a tragic play, a play is a tragedy when the major character possesses inbuilt weakness that will lead to downfall or misfortune. And that inbuilt weakness, mistake, or error is what called tragic flow. Example, if you watch your Othello, if you read Othello as a play, look at Othello. Othello is The general of the Venetian what? Army. But he has what? Inbuilt weakness. What is his weakness? Othello is impatient. Othello is impatient and is jealous. Othello has jealousy and impatience. Othello has jealousy and impatience. That is his weakness. That is why when they told him that his wife was unfaithful to him, instead of him to investigate the woman first, what did he do? He went ahead and killed the woman. What's that? Impatient. Why? Because he was jealous of the fact that what? How can somebody else be sharing what? His wife with him? And again, who is that person? Michael Cashew is what? Supposed what? Second in command. So when you look at another play, we have Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet, we have the two major characters, Romeo and Juliet. Romeo is from an average family, from a poor background, while Juliet is from what? A rich background. And the two are in love. But Juliet's parents do not want her to marry that poor boy, Romeo. But the girl is in love with what? Romeo. And then the girl's parents now arranged a lover for her to marry, who is Paris. So they fixed the wedding. It was not like Juliet would be getting married to Paris. So Juliet now wrote a letter to the boyfriend, Romeo, that Romeo, this is what happens. I will take a poison that will only make me become unconscious for several hours. I will not die. The poison will only make me become unconscious for several hours. And the aim of doing this work is that I want my parents to call off what? The wedding plan with what? That rich boy, Paris. Then Juliet now gave the servant to go and give to her boyfriend, Romeo. But the servant did not go on time. So when Romeo heard the news that Juliet is dead, Romeo went and got original poison and drank. So while he was dying, the servant they sent now brought letter. So Romeo died. The news at home, Juliet had woken up from her unconsciousness. When Juliet heard the word Romeo is dead, she ran to the home of Romeo. And by the time Juliet got to Romeo's place, he found Romeo dead. What happened? The remaining poison that Romeo did not finish, Juliet now helped Romeo to finish. That's how two lovers died. Why? Because of what? Impatience. Take note. So when a character possesses what? Inbuilt weakness, and that weakness is the cause of his or her misfortune, downfall, or death, it is called tragic flow. Look at another play, Nigerian play, The Gods Are Not to Blame, where we have a king, Odewale, who removed his two eyes and went on banishment. Why? In the story, Odewale was given birth to by his parents. You have a king in the story who is King Adetusa and Queen Ojolape. The king and the wife had a baby named Odewale. They called an Ifa priest to come and divine what the future of the boy will be. But when the Ifa priest came, he said this boy has an evil destiny, that the parent should kill him now, because if the boy is not killed, in the future he will kill his father and marry his mother. That was a prophecy on him. So as soon as the king had such declaration, he sent a servant to go and kill the boy in the forest. But by the time the servant got to the forest, instead of him to kill the boy, he now had pity on him. He dropped the boy beside an iroko tree and left. So one hunter that was going on hunting expedition heard the cry of the baby. He now took the baby home and nursed him until he became an adult. So one day, that grown-up boy now went to the hunter's farm to harvest yam. But by the time he got there, he met people already harvesting yam in his father's land. So now accosted the leader that, Mr. Man, why are your servants harvesting yam in my father's farm? Before you know it, argument ensued. Odewale killed that man. Or not to him, he killed what? His father. He now ran to another village where he helped them to wage war against what? Their enemy kingdom, and then they won. Having won the war for them, he was now made what? The new king. So while he was here as a new king, he married the wife of the old king, who happens to want to be his mother. Then, as time goes on, problems began in the town. Women were dying, children were dying. Then the king now called the priest to know what is the cause of the word pestilence that ravaged the community. So they told him, king, the man who killed our former king is now living in our midst. And Odewale is hot-tempered. He's hot-tempered. As soon as Odewale heard that the killer of the former king is leaving the kingdom, because of his hot temper and impatience, he now made what? A kingly decree that anywhere that person is caught, we will remove his 2 eyes and banish him. And who is the killer? He's the one. So at the end of the story, Odewale found out that what? He was the killer of the former king. So he went in and plucked out his 2 eyes and what? And went on a banishment. So when a character falls because of personal errors or mistakes, what do you call that? Tragic flaw or amateur. The name is amateur, given by Aristotle of Greece, but otherwise called tragic flaw. Number 2, we have Macaronism. Macaronism is a device where a work of art is written in more than one language. A device where a work of art is written in more than one language is called Macaronism. Meaning, when you have a play, a novel, or a poem written in different languages, or you have one language style or diction being used in it, it is called Macaronism. Example, look at our Harvest of Corruption. Harvest of Corruption by Frank Ugolugbeche. It has that element called Macaronism. Why? The play is written in English language. And then the play also has what? It has element of pidginization. It has local dialect. We have local dialect there. We have pidgin there, where Ochole and Alo were what? Discussing in pidgin. I beg you, make my hear word, no be center, Nango 90. Yes, we have pidgin, we have English, and what? We have local dialect. Exactly. So that's one as Macaronism. Also, if you look at your novel, Lonely Days by Kayode, that one too has what? Element of Macaronism. Why? The novel is written in what? In English language. But then, because the setting reflects what? Primitive African society. That's what we have what? We have influx of local word dialect, particularly what? Yoruba dialect. That's why Yaremi in the story taught our grandson Woye in what? Yoruba local word dialect. In fact, the manner in which the author describes the appearance of what? The 3 suitors to Yaremi, he described the word in Yoruba word dialect. He said, I only asked a car that looks like what? That gobi shape. So we have influx of pidgin and local dialect in what? In those texts. So in literature, generally speaking, when a work of art is written in more than one language, the device is called what? Macaronism. We also have it in poems. Look at this poem. This poem written by David Rubadiri, titled Stanley Meets Mutesa. There's a poem called Stanley Meets. Yes, this one is an old WAEC recommended poem. Yes, WAEC once recommended this poem. We call it Stanley Meets Mutesa. Stanley, a white man. Mutesa, Ugandan king. Stanley is a white man. Mutesa is what? Ugandan and Ugandan what? King. The poem shows the harsh experiences of the whites while coming to what? To Africa on colonial rule. It is a poem on colonial penetration into what? Africa. How? It depicts the harsh experiences, the ordeals of what? Of the colonialists in their attempts to what? to penetrate into the interior parts of Africa. But then that poem has elements of Macaronism. Why? It is written in English language plus Ugandan word local dialect. Why? In one of the lines there, we have this line, we have Mutu. Why the king was welcoming the white man, he expressed this comment in the poem. Mutum wepe karibu. Mutum wepe karibu. Mutum wepe karibu. Meaning, white man, you are welcome. So the poem has more than one word language. That is an instance of Macaronism. Also, read this poem titled Building the Nation by Henry Ballot. Building the Nation by Henry Ballot. That poem exists in what? In English language. But now what? African local dialect. Why? It's a poem about how two people come to the boat to state development, a permanent secretary and a driver. Now, at a point in that poem, the permanent secretary asked the driver, have you eaten? The driver knew that the question was meant to bully him. So the driver said, well, unwanachi, I too had none. It's in the poem. Unwanachi, I too had none. We have English and local word dialect. The device in literature is termed Macaronism. Look at number 3, plagiarism. Number 3 is plagiarism. Plagiarism is when a writer copies the language style, literary style, or storyline of another writer without reference or acknowledgement to the source. Plagiarism refers to the act of copying a writer's literary style, language, or technique without reference to what? The source or owner. Meaning, if Mr. A writes a story and published it, then Mr. B now uses the style that Mr. A always used in his own to publish his work. Mr. B uses or copies Mr. A's literary style, Mr. A's work, language, to publish his own. Mr. B's work becomes what? Plagiarism. That is, Mr. B has plagiarized. So we define plagiarism as the act of copying a writer's word, literary style, language, or technique without making reference to what? The original owner or the source. But note, when you copy someone else's literary style, language, or technique, but with due reference to the source or the owner, it is called an adaptation. That one is called adaptation. When you copy someone else's literary style without reference to the owner, it is plagiarism. But reference to the source or owner is what? Is adaptation. Now look at it, class. We have examples in the literature. This your play titled The Gods Are Not to Blame. The Gods Are Not to Blame by Olarotimi. Yes, Olarotimi is one of the Nigerian world dramatists. Olarotimi was one of the, now late, he was one of the Nigerian world prolific dramatists. He wrote that play titled The Gods Are Not to Blame. But note, that play, The Gods Are Not to Blame, is an adaptation from a Greek play called Oedipus. There is a Greek play, okay, it's in past tense. There was a Greek play called Oedipus. Oedipus. That was a play written by Sophocles, a Greek playwright. Sophocles was a Greek playwright who wrote that play titled Oedipus. The same thing that happened in the gods are not to blame is what happened in Oedipus Rex. The same action, the same style. So it was Plagiarism of Nigeria that copied Sophocles' word, language style and storyline into the gods are not to blame. But by the time Plagiarism wrote his own play, he made reference to what the original source, that this play was adapted from Sophocles' Oedipus Rex. So when a writer copies someone else's literary style, language, or storyline with reference to the source, it is called an adaptation. Take note. Another writer, we have a writer called Femi Osofison. Femi Osofison. Yes, another Nigerian word, another Nigerian prolific dramatist. Yes, Nigerian prolific writer. Femi Osofison wrote a play titled Women of Owu. Women of Owu. Women of Owu, written by Femi Osofison. But note, this play, Women of Owu, was adapted from one old Greek play called Trojan Women. We have a play in Greece called The Trojan Women. The Trojan Women, written by Euripides. Euripides. Yes. Euripides was one of the early Greek playwrights. Euripides wrote that play, Trojan Women. The same thing that happened in Trojan Women was copied into Women of Owu. But then, Femi Osofison referenced what the writer, Euripides, that his own play, Women of Owu, was adapted from Euripides' Trojan Women. When that happens in literature, the term for it is what? An adaptation. Next, we have hermeneutics. Hermeneutics is the study of what? Literary interpretation. The study of interpretation. The study of the interpretation of a work of art is called hermeneutics. The study of the interpretation of a work of art is called hermeneutics. Take note. Look at our next. Aesthetics. Aesthetics simply means the study of the beauty of a work of art. The study of the beauty of a work of art is called aesthetics. Look up. Some movies, when you watch them, you find those movies interesting. Why some, from the start of action, you are already revolved about what the event. So those ones that you find interesting, or some books, when you read them, you find those books interesting because of their actions. Why? The books have what? They have aesthetics, which is what? Beauty. So the study of the beauty of a literary work is called aesthetics. Take note. Next, we have feminism. We have feminism. Now, feminism as a movement is meant to what? To project the condition of women so as to help them achieve what? Gender equality with their male counterparts. Feminism is a movement that supports what? The cause of women in the society. A movement that supports the cause of women in the society. A movement that projects the life of women in the society. And the aim of doing that is what? To help women advocate for what? For gender equity with who? Their male counterparts. So when you bring that to literature now, today we have feminist writers. Feminist writers, they are writers that present what? Women as their what? Heroine. They present women as the central figure, as the central figures in what? In their works of art. How? They will be showing what? They will be showing how women are suffering from the actions of what? Of men. How women are being what? Maltreated by the so-called what? Male counterpart. They will be projecting what? The suffering, the hardship that women go through in the hands of their male counterpart. And the aim of doing that was that what? They are using that same story to what? To advocate what? Gender equality. Example, Lonely Days. Lonely Days is a feminist novel which has Jeremy as what? The central character. And if you look at the story, Jeremy, and the story, Jeremy achieves what? She achieves, Jeremy, and the story, she achieves a sense of equality with what? Males in this world, in the kingdom. How? She now has the right to decide whether or not she wants to remarry or remain single. Why? Because in African cultural setting, women do not have such right to remain single after the death of the first husband. They have to remarry compulsorily. But in this story, Jeremy refuses to what? To remarry. That's why her action was seen as what? As a contradiction to what? African cultural value system. That's why the male, they banished her from the kingdom. But then she achieved what? Her purpose. What's purpose? She wants to decide whether she will remarry or she will remain single, which she achieved. In the story. Look at this book as well. The Joy of Motherhood. The Joy of Motherhood, written by Buchi Emecheta. There we have what? Onwego, who suffers as well as a woman because of what? Of her childlessness. Go and read The Concubine by Elechi Amadi, where you have what? The central character, Yoma, who also what? Suffers from who? From the irresponsible act of what? Of male. They betrothed the girl to who? To the gods at childbirth. And that when she grows up, she will not what? Marry. Why? She's now a wife to the gods. But by the time the girl grows up, 3 characters showed interest in her. Emenike, Madume, and Ekweme. But then she could not marry any of the 3 characters. Why? Because the males have betrothed her to what? To the gods as what? An instrument. So any play, story, or text that depicts what? The suffering of women, their hardship, their unpalatable what? Experience because of the action or because of what? The self-proclaimed male dominance. Such a text is called what? A feminist text. Take note. Then look at Amadako's Faceless too. That novel is what? Feminist in nature. Look at Ngozi Adichie. That's Chimamanda Adichie's Papa Discourse. It's equally what? Feminist in nature. Take note. Look at the next. We have poetic justice. Poetic justice simply means the punishment that is given to what? To writers for violating what? Literary principles and what? Practices. Punishment given to writers for violating literary principles and practices is called poetic justice. Now, let's bring it to what? To literature now. Poetic justice is the reward given to what? To a character for his or her role in what? In drama. Those who do good in a drama, they will receive reader's commendation. Those who do evil in a drama, they will receive what? Condemnation. So when a character is rewarded based on his or her role within a performance class, it is called poetic word justice. Example, look at Harvest of Corruption. All the good characters in the story, all the good characters in Harvest of Corruption, who are they? We have Oge, we have Inspector Inoku, we have Constable Ojo, we have ACP Yakubu. These are good characters. They all receive what? Reader's commendation. Why? Despite the state of rottenness that the society is what is thrown into, those characters still what maintained their stand. But other characters like Chief Alanedemaka, Alo, Ochuole, Madam Owa, Commissioner of Police, Justice Odili, and Ayo, they all got what? Evil result. How? They were sentenced to what? To different what? Jail terms for their what? Nefarious activities in that word play. So when a character receives the reward of his or her action, class is called what? Poetic justice, otherwise called nemesis. Nemesis means what? It means the retribution of justice or rebounds of evil on a character. Alright, that brings us to the end of today's class. This is where I'm going to pause it for today. I will see us again some other time. This e-learning platform was brought to us by Isaac Humanitarian Foundation. See you some other time. Good day, class.